Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Nick and Sharon's adventure, Victoria's chase, and Claire's trouble. In Los Angeles, Claire Grace Newman may run into some issues. There, Amelia Heinleigh's character Victoria Newman accompanies her daughter. In addition, Sharon Newman and Nick Newman embark on a journey to see Noah Newman. However, since all of these LA storylines can overlap, let's start with the upcoming events in the CBS soap opera. Jill Abbott's return home. First up is Jill Abbott, who plays a significant role in the scheme of Victor Newman and Jack Abbott. In fact, Sally Spectre cautioned Jill via video chat about Billy Abbott and a proposal for her own business. Melody Thomas Scott's character Nikki Newman is aware that Jill might end up siding with Billy Finn's character Kane Ashby. Together and separately, Jack and Victor are planning. They intend to set up a trap for Kane shortly. The anger of Lauren Fenmore Baldwin. She is tired of Michael Baldwin and has moved in with Lauren Fenmore Baldwin. Even though Michael understands Lauren's feelings, he can't help but revert to his old routine. But once he saves the businesses in Genoa City, Lauren could forgive him. Tessa Porter's research. According to Young and the Restless teasers for the week of October 6, Daniel Romalotti, Jr. and Tessa Porter will begin their investigation. First, they will go to the scene where Mariah Copeland claimed to have attempted to murder Michael Swan. Fans will also notice that Michael Mealer's character Kyle Abbott needs anything to divert his attention from Claire traveling to Los Angeles with Nathan Owen's character Holden Novak. It's obvious that Kyle will spend his time debating Audra Charles. Could something happen with Kyle now that Audra has had another rejection from Nate Hastings? Victoria will accompany Claire and Holden to Los Angeles. Holden has been described as an avid risk-taker, which may appear a bit overprotective for a lady Claire's age. I therefore question if Claire may find herself in a difficult circumstance from which Victoria could save her. Nick and Sharon intend to see Noah in Los Angeles as well. But keep an eye out since there can be some surprises there as well. In Los Angeles, the drama is about to ignite on several levels, and Young and the Restless fans are bracing themselves for a wave of storylines that intersect, collide, and entangle in ways that nobody could have predicted. Because when Sharon Newman and Nick Newman decide to pack their bags for a trip to the West Coast to reunite with their son Noah, who has been quietly pursuing his passions and enjoying a life somewhat removed from the daily chaos of Genoa City, they have no idea that their journey will overlap with a much larger set of troubles involving Victoria Newman and her daughter Claire Grace Newman, because Claire's desire for independence and adventure seems to be pulling her into situations that are increasingly dangerous, especially with the presence of Holden Novak, a risk-taker with a flair for charming words but an unsettling tendency to lead Claire into scenarios where she may find herself on unstable footing, and it is this very reckless edge that puts Victoria on high alert, since as a mother she knows too well the sting of betrayal, manipulation, and emotional traps from her own complicated history with men, which is why she insists on accompanying Claire to Los Angeles despite the young woman's insistence that she can handle herself. Though fans can already sense that Victoria's protective instincts may end up being more necessary than ever, because if Holden's impulsive side drives him to push Claire into questionable choices, the only shield she will have will be the woman who raised her, though the irony of that relationship is still fresh given the rocky start between mother and daughter, while across town Jill Abbott makes her return and sets her sights not only on reconnecting with the family empire but also on cementing her place in the upcoming battle that Victor Newman and Jack Abbott are silently orchestrating. A battle that seems to center on Kane Ashby and whatever shadowy dealings he's been involved in, since Victor and Jack have both decided that their mutual disdain for Kane overrides their hatred for each other, which creates a rare moment of alliance between the two titans of business, and Jill, of course, finds herself caught in the middle, especially since she's been warned by Sally Spectre in a tense video call that Billy Abbott is moving quickly with his own proposals and that Jill must tread carefully before she loses leverage, though Sally herself has problems to face, particularly in the fallout of Audra. Charles's heartbreak after Nate Hastings turned her down yet again, because Audra, in her restless energy, may find herself bouncing into Kyle Abbott's orbit, and though Kyle has his hands full with his own inner turmoil and his obsession over Claire traveling to Los Angeles with Holden, the undeniable tension between Kyle and Audra may finally erupt into something scandalous, further complicating the already fragile trust that holds the Abbott family together, while on the other end of town, Lauren Fenmore Baldwin is seething with anger at Michael Baldwin, whose inability to fully break free from his old patterns of control, secrets, and risky moves has pushed her to her breaking point, so much so that she has walked out and is contemplating her own path forward, even as Michael believes that one more big save in the business arena could redeem him in Lauren's eyes, a gamble that may or may not pay off. And meanwhile Tessa Porter is embarking on a mission of her own alongside Daniel Romalotti, Jr., because Mariah Copeland's shocking claim that she once attempted to murder Michael Swan has set off alarm bells, prompting Tessa and Daniel to revisit the very scene of the alleged crime in search of clues, though as soap fans know, returning to the scene of any long-buried incident never goes smoothly, and this detour will likely unearth not just evidence but emotional ghosts that could threaten to unravel everything Mariah and Tessa have worked for, creating another heartbreaking test of loyalty for the couple, and all the while, as Sharon and Nick land in Los Angeles, eager to surprise Noah but secretly carrying their own emotional baggage, the echoes of their past relationship, the memories of Cassie, the weight of Faith's struggles, they find themselves pulled into the gravitational force of the Newman women's troubles, because once Victoria and Claire cross their path, the ripple effect ensures that Sharon and Nick will not simply be on a family visit, but swept into an unfolding drama that mixes young love, parental fear, business schemes, and long-festering rivalries into a combustible cocktail. And while the Newmans brace for what's ahead, fans should also prepare for the reality that Jill's moves, Sally's warnings, Audra's temptations, Kyle's jealousy, Michael's desperation, Lauren's rage, and Tessa's investigation will all converge in ways that ensure this Los Angeles arc is not merely a side trip but the centerpiece of the next great wave of storylines, with secrets rising, alliances shifting, and hearts breaking in ways that will keep viewers glued to their screens as the fates of Nick, Sharon, Victoria, Claire, Jill, Billy, Kyle, Audra, Tessa, Mariah, Daniel, Lauren, Michael, Jack, and Victor intertwine in a storm that will shake both Genoa City and Los Angeles to their cores, leaving fans to wonder not just who will win or lose in business but who will survive emotionally intact when loyalties are tested and love is pushed to its very limits. And just when it seems that the Newmans' Los Angeles escapade might settle into a simple reunion with Noah, the cracks in every carefully laid plan begin to spread wider than anyone expected, because Noah himself has secrets that he hasn't shared with his parents, secrets that could shake both Nick and Sharon to their core if exposed, since his time away has not been entirely as peaceful as he claimed. While he has been building his art career and finding love in new places, Noah has also found himself entangled in a series of business ventures that overlap with shady investors connected to Victor's own rivals, and if Nick learns his son has unknowingly tied himself to people Victor would consider enemies, the fallout could ignite not only father-son tension but a whole new corporate war that drags Sharon into dangerous waters she thought she'd left behind. Meanwhile, Claire's adventure with Holden begins to spiral the moment she steps foot into Los Angeles nightlife, because Holden's charm masks an edge that is less about fun and more about testing boundaries, and when he drags Claire into a high-stakes poker room in the hills, surrounded by men and women who play with more than just money, Claire quickly realizes she may be in far over her head, but before she can call for help, Victoria bursts in, having tracked her daughter's phone, and the confrontation that follows is explosive as Victoria rips Holden apart for manipulating her daughter while Claire insists she is not a child and can make her own decisions, a clash that threatens to unravel what fragile peace existed between mother and daughter since their reunion, but unbeknownst to both, someone else in that poker room recognizes Victoria Newman, not just as a high-profile CEO but as Victor's daughter, and begins plotting how to use the sudden overlap of the Newman family as leverage in a larger game against the patriarch himself. And across town Jill Abbott begins to realize that her return may have been ill-timed, because though she wanted to reassert control and perhaps partner with Billy to keep Abbott communications strong, she is now caught in the crossfire of Jack and Victor's alliance, something she never thought she'd live to see, since these two men are using her as bait in their scheme to expose Kane Ashby. And while Jill has been known to play both sides when it suits her, this time she may find herself cornered, especially since Sally Spector's warning wasn't merely about Billy's proposal but about Audra Charles circling in the shadows, because Audra, tired of rejection by Nate, is hungry for both power and companionship, and Kyle Abbott is just vulnerable enough to slip, creating the perfect storm for an affair that will devastate Summer when she learns that her husband couldn't resist temptation, though Kyle convinces himself it's only about distraction from his gnawing obsession with Claire, who he still doesn't trust in Los Angeles, especially now that Holden has entered the picture. But this obsession could cost Kyle dearly if Audra manipulates him into giving up corporate secrets in exchange for passion, which would be a betrayal that Jack, still trying to balance his alliance with Victor, will not forgive, especially since he already suspects Audra has ambitions too big for her own good. Meanwhile, Lauren Fenmore Baldwin's rage has not cooled, and though Michael believes saving a business deal might restore their marriage, Lauren is contemplating a more permanent separation, leaning on friends like Phyllis for advice, but Phyllis, ever the instigator, encourages Lauren to consider what life might be like without Michael altogether, planting dangerous seeds that could blossom into divorce papers if Michael doesn't change, while on another front, Tessa and Daniel's investigation into Mariah's dark confession grows more tangled, because as they retrace her steps they uncover evidence that suggests someone else may have framed Mariah all those years ago, meaning the alleged attempted murder might not only be a misunderstanding but part of a bigger cover-up, and when they stumble upon a hidden recording from that night, it suggests Michael Swan may not have been the innocent victim everyone thought he was, raising the terrifying possibility that Mariah was targeted, not the other way around, a discovery that could send shockwaves through her already fragile relationship with Tessa, because if someone has been lying for years, the truth will not only threaten to ruin Mariah's trust but may put both women in immediate danger, as whoever buried that evidence surely won't want it unearthed. And while all of this brews, Sharon and Nick's presence in Los Angeles stirs up memories between them, because every shared glance reminds them of their decades-long history, the loves, the losses, the betrayals, and the undeniable bond that never seems to fade, and though both try to brush aside their feelings for the sake of seeing Noah, the city itself becomes a catalyst for old sparks reigniting, especially when Sharon confides in Nick her fears about Claire, recalling her own troubled teenage years and wondering if history has a cruel way of repeating itself, a vulnerable admission that pulls Nick closer even as he knows Victoria wouldn't approve, yet he can't deny the warmth that still exists with Sharon. But before any of them can deal with these emotional entanglements, a shocking twist rocks them all when Noah introduces his girlfriend to the family, and it turns out to be someone tied to Holden's world, intertwining the two storylines in ways nobody anticipated, because if Noah's girlfriend has been moving in the same circles as Holden, then both Claire and Noah may be pawns in a larger scheme that could drag the entire Newman family into a new West Coast war, one where old rivals of Victor's resurface with plans to strike at his legacy through his children, and as Jill, Jack, and Victor maneuver their own trap for Kane back in Genoa City, unaware that the Newmans in Los Angeles are walking straight into a trap of their own, viewers will see that these overlapping arcs are building toward one inevitable explosion, where family loyalty, corporate warfare, romantic entanglements, and personal betrayals collide in a fiery climax, and nobody, neither Sharon, Nick, Victoria, Claire, Jill, Jack, Billy, Audra, Kyle, Sally, Tessa, Mariah, Daniel, Michael, Lauren, or even Victor himself, will walk away without scars when the dust finally settles. But even as Noah tries to put on a brave front, insisting to his parents that his life is under control, the cracks in his story begin to show the moment Sharon notices his nervous glances when questions turn toward finances, because unbeknownst to both Nick and Sharon, Noah's art gallery, though flourishing on the surface, has been partly funded by investors who expect more than money in return. Investors who have links to shady networks that Victor Newman has been battling behind the scenes for years, and while Noah thinks he's kept his parents in the dark, it only takes one whispered conversation between Sharon and Victoria to realize that Claire's risky entanglement with Holden Novak may not be coincidental at all but connected to the same group pulling Noah's strings, meaning both of Victor's grandchildren could be caught in the same dangerous web, something Victoria cannot forgive herself for if true, especially since she already blames herself for not being able to shield Claire from Jordan's manipulation for so many years, so to see her daughter slipping into another perilous connection is unbearable, and her protective instincts go into overdrive, but Claire, still raw from being treated as a fragile victim, lashes out at her mother's interference, telling Victoria in no uncertain terms that she will not be suffocated or controlled. A declaration that leaves Victoria torn between letting her daughter find her own path and risking the possibility that one wrong step could cost Claire everything, and while this emotional standoff simmers, Nick finds himself pulled between fatherly duty and corporate obligation, because if Noah's entanglements put Newman Enterprises in jeopardy, Victor will expect him to clean up the mess before it damages the family empire, but Nick, weary of being his father's fixer, wonders if he has the strength to protect both his son and Sharon without being consumed by Victor's iron grip. Meanwhile, Jill's return in Genoa City continues to stir unrest, because though she arrived with intentions to reclaim her influence and perhaps align herself with Billy, she quickly realizes she has walked into a battlefield that is already in motion, with Jack and Victor's alliance pressing forward on their plan to trap Kane Ashby, a plan that may use Jill herself as unknowing bait, and though Jill prides herself on being shrewd, she underestimates just how far Victor is willing to go to eliminate an enemy, which could result in Jill being backed into a corner with no escape, especially since Sally Spectra, despite her warnings, is secretly hedging her bets, considering aligning herself with whichever Abbott can offer her the most security, and if that means dangling information before Victor, Sally may once again prove that her loyalty is as flexible as her ambition, while Kyle Abbott, caught in the spiral of jealousy over Claire's Los Angeles trip, continues to circle closer to Audra Charles, convincing himself that a fling would distract him. But what he doesn't realize is that Audra is not simply looking for comfort but for leverage, and if Kyle crosses that line, he may not only betray Summer but hand Audra the very ammunition she needs to wedge herself deeper into Abbott communications, causing fractures Jack cannot mend. And as all this unfolds, Lauren Fenmore Baldwin finally reaches a breaking point, confronting Michael in a raw and emotional showdown where she tells him she refuses to be dragged into his old patterns any longer, declaring that unless he chooses transparency over secrecy, their marriage may not survive, a threat that leaves Michael shaken but still convinced he can salvage their relationship with one last heroic act, though the question remains whether Lauren has already closed her heart to him for good. And while these storms rage, Tessa and Daniel's investigation begins to uncover darker truths, as they realize that Michael Swan's past was far more complex than anyone admitted, and that Mariah's so-called attempted murder may have been the result of a setup orchestrated by people who wanted to silence Swan for his own crimes, meaning Mariah may not only be innocent but still at risk, a revelation that Tessa struggles to process as she wonders what kind of danger their family could still be in. And back in Los Angeles, as Sharon and Nick attempt to juggle their concern for Noah with the explosive tension between Victoria and Claire, sparks between them continue to fly, because every argument they share about how to handle the children's problems ends with the unmistakable reminder of how deeply entwined their lives have always been, and though they try to resist, one stolen moment at the hotel bar threatens to reignite the flames of their romance, just as Noah returns with news that his girlfriend has connections to Holden that are not just social but business-related, meaning the two siblings may both be tethered to the same network of dangerous players, a revelation that forces Nick, Sharon, and Victoria to band together despite their differences, knowing that if they don't act quickly, both Noah and Claire could be swept into a spiral neither may escape. And as Victor prepares his next move in Genoa City, unaware of the chaos brewing in Los Angeles, viewers can already sense that the collision between these two arcs will build into a storm of betrayals, reconciliations, and shocking twists that will leave the Newman family forever changed. Because when the truth finally comes out about Holden's real ties and the investors backing Noah's dreams, the fallout will not only test family loyalty but pit the Newmans against an enemy powerful enough to rival Victor himself. And as the walls close in tighter, the Los Angeles storyline begins to take on a life of its own, because the realization that Noah and Claire may both be entangled in the same dangerous circle of power players forces Nick, Sharon, and Victoria to push aside their personal conflicts, though the tension between them simmers just below the surface, especially whenever Sharon and Nick share those lingering looks that remind Victoria of the complicated triangle she has always resented. And while they argue about strategy, Holden makes his boldest move yet, inviting Claire to attend a mysterious party in the Hollywood Hills where the so-called investors will be present, an event that feels more like a trap than an opportunity. And though Claire insists she can handle herself, Victoria refuses to let her go alone, setting the stage for a mother-daughter confrontation that could end in disaster. Meanwhile, Noah's girlfriend, who has remained coy about her connections, finally admits that she once worked directly with Holden, not only in business but in something darker, and her admission sends Nick into a fury, demanding answers about how deep Noah has gotten himself into trouble, a fury that only grows when Victor calls from Genoa City with cryptic warnings about unfinished business that may follow them to California. For Victor has long known that the same shadowy enemies Kane Ashby has flirted with could have operations stretching into Los Angeles, meaning the Newman family may be facing not just coincidence but a calculated strike. And while Jill and Billy continue to clash with Jack and Victor over the corporate trap being laid, they remain oblivious that the true battlefield has already shifted westward, where Sharon, Nick, and Victoria are about to walk into a den of wolves with their children at the center, promising fans that the coming week will deliver fireworks no one in Genoa City or Los Angeles will ever forget.